President Kimberly Fletcher, and Vice President Debbie Kaulitis.
All righty. Well, hold on. Let's clean it up here. We've got this beautiful set.
You're right. You're right.
Isn't this incredible? Thank you to all of our team that really did such an incredible job designing all this. And welcome, audience. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
There are a lot of people out there watching us tonight. We want to thank you for being there. And please feel free to share it with your friends. Send this link out there. And we want to thank all the media who's here covering the event as well.
We do. We have a lot of media in the house, and we do appreciate them getting this word out, because tonight is going to be a very, very important meeting. I do want to just say thanks for everyone's patience. We understand that, when the senator is traveling, there are sometimes things get delayed. So we are a little bit delayed, but we're going to have a great evening here. So hang in with us.
And he's had a very full day, and he's still coming.
Yes,
it's important.
He's still coming. That's the big news, okay? So I know how much we all appreciate that. But welcome. I mean, we're so excited to be here at the birthplace of America in Pennsylvania, which just happens to be your hometown.
This is where I was born.
Along with thanking the media, I do want to thank the streaming services that are streaming us. Right now, if you are with us, would you please share this with your friends? And of course, everybody in the audience, would you please text it out as well, letting everyone know that the live stream is up and that we are going to have an incredible town hall tonight with moms and with Senator J.D. Vance. So please let everybody know that.
This is not a no-share zone. So hashtag MomVote and share it out there. We would love that.
Yeah, we would love that. A couple other things. We're going to talk about tonight's objective. Why? I know why. But why are we doing this, Kimberly? You came and you said we need to do a mom vote. And I said, okay, where do we go? How do we do this? And where are we going with this? And she said, we've got to go to Pennsylvania. We have got to get the moms engaged. And it's so important that they know exactly who and what they're voting for. So tell us about tonight.
Yeah, so this is a really important night because as moms go out, and when they do go out and vote, and I have to say the vast majority of conservative women of faith are not voting. Most aren't even registered to vote. And thousands of moms in Hispanic and Black communities are voting against their values every election and not even realizing it. And when they do go out and vote, and they look at that ballot, they're like, who are these people? How do I know who they are, what they stand for? And we want to know that when we do go out and vote, that our vote is going in the direction of our values. And so tonight is an opportunity to hear from Senator Vance to find out what is it that this administration is going to do. What do they care about? What policies are they going to promote? So that moms know when they go out and vote who is going to best represent them.
Mm-hmm. And even the media here with the interview they said, what are moms concerned about? Moms are concerned about everything you're going to hear on this stage tonight. Every cross section. We have moms that we have flown in from California to Florida with incredible stories. And there's stories that are happening in every home across America.
All issues are mom issues, and you're going to realize that tonight. So
we have to tell us about Philadelphia.
Why are we here? Why are we doing it here? So Philadelphia is the birthplace of America. And there is an incredible history of, I love that Ben Franklin was able to share the stories of some of those women. There's so many more incredible stories. I could throw out a bunch of names you've never heard of, but they are women who made an incredible difference. And they did so because they believed in something beyond themselves. And it started when the Pilgrims came over to America, when there was nothing but a bunch of woods and they had to survive. And that first winter, most of them died. Yeah. And of those that passed away, they were women. Almost all of them were women. Why? Because those women laid on their children at night to keep them warm. They gave them the last morsels of food that they had to make sure they were nourished, because they believed that they were going to be the future of something great. That led to the revolutionary time. And all those people who try to tell you that the women were downtrodden during that time, that is so not true. How many of you have seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding? There's a great line in that movie. He may be the head, but I am the neck, and I can turn that head wherever I want. Those women were powerful, and there is no way that a man was going to go out and put his name on a document knowing that it was going to sacrifice not only himself, but his family, endanger them. And those wives were there going, you get out there and you sign that document, and you make this happen, because they wanted freedom. They fought for freedom. They started with this idea of freedom. They taught it to their children. They fought for freedom. And then we had the suffragist mothers who fought and sacrificed so much for us to have this vote. And now we need to stand on the sacrifices and the commitments and dedication of those mothers who did so much for us and go out and vote. This is our right and our privilege. Let's vote for our values so our voice is heard.
Exactly. Round of applause on that one, right? So true. Women fought so hard for the right to vote. Why are we not voting? We don't think it matters. We hear that a lot. We don't
do politics.
We don't do politics.
Politics
we hate
don't
politics.
affect us.
Well, clearly nobody really does.
You
like
know
politics.
what? You may not do politics, but politics are doing you.
That's it.
And so you probably want to pay attention
Right.
and get engaged, at the very least, with your vote. So one of the things that we talk about at Moms for America all the time is the importance of sharing that light of liberty with your children. We've got to carry on what the legacy of America is, but we also have to vote our values and make sure that we're preserving something for them to stand on.
And elections have consequences. We see this all across the country. We see this in every home. Our country is changing, and our rights as parents are being affected strongly. From education to safe borders, elections have consequences. So this is why we as mothers have got to be voting our values. And this is really what tonight is all about. Sharing those stories, thinking about it. If you're not engaged, if you're not registered, if you're not a part of the process, you just have to be. You can no longer be passive.
So we're going to give you something to do tonight. We'll probably mention it a couple of times. We have a great website called momvote.us. You could go on that website and you can with our many partners, iVoter Guide, put in your zip code, and you can see exactly what's on your ballot, who's on your ballot. And then we provide you with all kinds of resources with information on who those people are and where they stand on the issues that matter with you so that you can vote your values with confidence. Share that. Go on the site. We'll remind you all the way through Election Day when it's time to vote. Don't forget to vote. We hear from moms all the time, I forgot to vote. We're a little busy doing things, right? So we want to make sure nobody forgets to vote.
I know this is obvious too, but we have to make voting a priority. And this is the problem, right? Our kids get sick. We can't do it. We get work. There's weather. So just really think about this as such a priority on the top of the list. There's so many things competing for our time. Especially with our children, but this just really is a priority. And these are nonpartisan issues.
Yeah.
These are all mom issues tonight.
Mom Vote is a mom platform. That's it. It's all about moms. Well, so what is Moms for America? I want to tell you a little bit about that.
Yes.
Just so you know who we are and why it is that we're doing this and feel it was so important. As I said, all issues are mom issues, and I founded Moms for America in 2004 in a living room in Dayton, Ohio with 26 women who all became our first members. And we have grown to a national network of over 500,000 moms in all 50 states.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, think about that. Love it.
So we are on a mission to reclaim our culture for truth, family, freedom, and the Constitution that defends our divine inherent rights as mothers. And our threefold mission is to empower moms, promote liberty, and raise patriots. I think that's a pretty good idea.
That is. We're going to go with that for sure. All right. I do want to give everyone an idea what the format will be tonight. So this town hall will consist of two parts. The beginning part, which is the first hour, we will hear from 7 different moms and a daughter. They come, like I said, from all across America, a variety of states and an incredible variety of stories. These stories are all personal, and I know that you watching will be able to relate, if not with most of these stories that are affecting millions of moms across America. Then on the second half, Senator J.D. Vance will join us on the stage as soon as he arrives. And just so we know, we did invite Governor Walz to join us, but he did not respond to our invitation. So just want to get that out there. All right. So again, in that second segment, we then our moms will ask Senator Vance the questions that pertain to their story.
And we have a few questions that were submitted online. We'll also ask those.
Yep. So I think that's about it.
Yeah,
I think we can get going. Let's take a
moms.
seat, and we're going to get going. All righty. I am delighted to introduce to you some incredible mama bears that are going to be joining us on the stage here tonight. Moms, why don't you come on out here? Some of our brave warriors.
I call upon our government and FEMA to put Americans first. Come to the aid of American citizens in our time of need.
I mean, all of us have seen the footage. I'm from Illinois, Kimberly's from Missouri, but we weren't there, but boy, were our hearts there.
Thank you.
So,
And we've been proud to fill those trucks to send them to you. So.
Yeah,
Thank you.
constantly. 53-foot trucks we're sending,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's been really incredible to be a part of giving and serving, but again, our government should be there to help.
Yeah, and I do want to say that when they did finally show up, they were stopping us from doing what we were doing. So we quit stationing at government buildings like schools. We started stationing at churches, and the helicopters went over FEMA to go help them. So I'm just saying.
And yet FEMA claims they're broke.
Thank you, Donica,
Thank
for
you,
coming in and
Donica.
sharing that story. Our next mom is Madeline Brame. I want to make sure I'm saying your last name correctly, Madeline.
It's Brame.
Brame, okay. I think
Yes.
I had it right, but then I get a little concerned. I'm saying his name right. I've got one of those names, and I just like, please, everybody messes it up. So I just want to make sure I'm good. So, Madeline, we've heard your story. It's also a very moving story. Would you join the moms here and tell us? A mom of 5 from New York City.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Madeline Brame, and I am the mother of Sergeant Hassan Correa. Hassan was an Afghanistan war retired veteran. He received and returned enemy fire on the Taliban. He survived the battlefield of Kandahar to only come home in Harlem in 2018 and be slaughtered in the street by 4 career criminals that had no business being free. He was stabbed to death, killed like an animal, left in the street in the gutter to bleed to death. All 4 of these people were apprehended, 2 brothers, a sister, and their friend, all between the ages of 35 and 40 years old. So these are not children that we're speaking of. These are full-blown adults who know the difference between right and wrong. The 3 men have been out of the penitentiary since they were teenagers, so they know what they were doing was wrong. All 4 were apprehended. I have to give a big up to the NYPD, the 32nd Precinct in Manhattan for, and the homicide squad and the fugitive squad. In 7 months, all 4 of these individuals were apprehended. This was during the time where the old school district attorney was in office in New York. If anybody knows about Cyrus Vance, all right, played hardball, didn't play no games, was no joke. And all 4 of these individuals were charged with first-degree gang assault and second-degree murder, all right? The 3 men were supposed to never get out of prison again because of their criminal history, and the female, the sister, had never been in trouble, but I was assured that she would get at least 25 to life because this entire incident was captured on video. So there was no mistaken identity. There was no mistake in what these people did until 2020 when Alvin Bragg hopped his happy behind up into the Manhattan District Attorney's office, and his day 1 memo said that he was no longer going to be prosecuting criminals, including murderers. He held true to that, right? Long story short, 2 of the individuals responsible for my son's murder were released. Alvin Bragg dismissed murder and gang assault indictments against both of them, and the 2 brothers, they received 20 to life. That's the most time that anyone can get for homicide right now in New York City is 20 years. Used to be 25, all right? But because of these soft on crime policies, this bail reform, and all this other crap that they put into place, defund the police and all this other kind of stuff in New York City, all right, that has turned our city into a complete you-know-what hole, all right? So Alvin Bragg is one of those prosecutors that is prosecuting our President Trump. Right? They told me the reason why they couldn't take all 4 of these people to trial is because they didn't have the resources to try all 4 individuals when they had $250 million to go after Trump. All right. So this is the excuse. So in light of this, right, the only recourse I had was to find my voice, find my strength, because I knew that if I was going through this, that hundreds and thousands of mothers and families all across the United States of America are going through the same thing, right? So I started on the crusade. I started out in front of the court building with a bullhorn and a sign by myself, all right? And I did that. I did that for a few years. I did it for a few years until people, you know, the media, Fox 5, Fox picked up on it, Newsmax picked up on it. Who in here knows Rudy Giuliani? Rudy picked up on it, Andrew picked up on it, and it was the Republicans who reached out to me and supported me, all right? The Democrats shunned me, ostracized me, turned their back on me because my boy was stabbed to death and not shot to death, all right? So they made a difference. They made a difference. Long story short, because I'm running out of time, I could go on forever, okay? But I'm running out of time. My thing is, I have an organization called Rescue Angel. And Rescue Angel, we provide services for mothers and families across the United States to help them navigate the court system, all right? Assign court buddies, all kinds of things to help these mothers get through the most devastating experience that they will ever experience in their life. The loss or, you know, brutal murder of a child with no justice and no recourse. So I thank you all for being here tonight. You know, and let's do this together. Moms across America, we've had enough. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Well, you can see why we invited her to come and speak, of course. God bless her, and our condolences to anyone that has lost a child.
Well, and I just want to say that I know that this mother speaks for hundreds and hundreds of mothers across the country because we hear from them. And you have given them a voice, and we are so grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
So next we have a mother-daughter team. They're from California, and it is Taryn Swain, who is a mother of 6, and her daughter Penny.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. I'm going to stick to my script here. My story is about my daughter, who was socially transitioned at her public school. Having been a homeschooling mother for over a decade, I was forced to put my children in public school due to having financial issues and having to go back to work full-time. While homeschooling, my daughters were your typical preteen girls. They were confident, secure, just your typical girly girls. Within a year of them being in public school, I started slowly seeing the impact of what was really being done behind closed doors. Both my daughters were riddled with anxiety, couldn't sleep, started self-harming, and struggling with suicidal thoughts. I particularly noticed my oldest daughter, Penny, doing different things like talking in a lower toned voice, dressing more masculine, wearing tight sports bras, wearing boys' boxers, and cutting her long hair off. I started noticing pronoun pins on her backpack, books I didn't buy show up in her room that were transgender focused, and her art taking a very dark turn with satanic and witchcraft symbols. When I would inquire about these things, she would shut down and go quiet. She became very disconnected from me, and she would often tell me that I just didn't understand her anymore. This disconnect, I have now learned, is by design. I found myself going from having a close relationship with my daughter to watching her slowly pretend to be a boy and get dangerously depressed and completely shut off from me. After refusing to let her have transgender pride flags at my house or to affirm the transgender narrative, she chose to live full-time with her dad, who was affirming her. I felt I had lost my daughter. I prayed and was resolved to stand on the truth. After some time, and what I believe was a miracle, she wanted to start coming back to my house and also asked to homeschool again. Within months of her being out of the public school, her anxiety, self-harm, and depression started to slowly subside. And by the grace of God, this past year, she gave her life to Jesus. She's learning her true identity in Him and is learning to accept exactly who God created her to be, which is a beautiful young girl. It continues to be a fight of rewiring her thinking where lies have crept in. Many of the stories she's going to share with you, even here today, I have only even recently found out about as even preparing for this speech. We are still on a journey of healing, and it is truly a detox from what's socially going on in the public school doctrine. If there is one thing I could tell parents, it is to never affirm your child in the lie of transgenderism. Tell your child the truth, because it is the most loving thing you can do when they are confused and believing lies. Now you can hear from Penny.
Thank you, Shannon.
My confusion about my gender and sexuality began my first day of middle school, 6th grade. The first friend I had made told me she was bisexual and shared with me her sexual experiences with another girl in the school bathroom. This information confused and shocked me as it was such adult content being shared with me. Later in another class, I was asked to fill out an About Me worksheet that asked my pronouns and a name I preferred, which again confused me because I had never heard such concepts until then. By the 7th grade, I had chose Penn as my preferred name and began binding my chest to appear flatter. My teachers would call me by this name in class, and upon my request, kept this a secret from my parents, calling me one name in the classroom and another name in front of them. My teachers not only supported me in this, but they also encouraged it, going as far as recommending me gay pornographic books and taking the role as my affirming caretaker. In the 8th grade, I had fully identified as gender fluid, going back and forth through pronouns depending on the day. In that year, I also began cutting myself, leaning towards suicide as comfort, and would have seasons of depressive episodes. In the 9th grade, I had fully developed an anxiety disorder, making sleep an almost non-existent thing. And these tendencies were common among my friends, since we were all suffering the same things and would apply each other's coping mechanisms. All of this happened during the vulnerable stages of my parents' divorce, which made me a very easy target when searching for somewhere to belong. Entering 10th grade, I decided to switch to homeschooling due to my mental health declining significantly and me wanting to get better. As I spent more time at home, away from the heavy influences of school, teachers, and friends, my mental health slowly but surely began to improve. It wasn't until this year, though, my 11th grade year, I had met Jesus. I began to get more involved in the church. Due to the solitude of homeschooling, I had not only found healing in the community that I had found, but I had realized how deep and dark the pit I was in. I'm still in work in progress, but I've never had such a better hope for the future than I do now.
For a young woman at this age to share this testimony of hope is incredible.
I think it's important that I just want you to know that she said she's ready to share this. It's a very hard thing to go through, and she wants to share it so that she can let all those other parents out there know this is what their children are facing, and we have to stand and support them in being who they are, not who the world is lying to them.
So brave, so courageous. And thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
As parents not giving up, and as daughters, and sons and daughters and children realizing how much your parents love you. I mean, we're all choked up with this because you know this is happening.
Well, I know I can tell you there are thousands and thousands. This is the biggest issue with moms. And it doesn't matter what political persuasion you are, what color you are, what age you are. There was a man I met in California, and he said, I have more money than God, and I don't know what to do to help my daughter because she's convinced she's a boy. This is tragic, absolutely tragic what's happening to our kids. And Penny, I cannot thank you enough for having the courage to stand up and for Karen never giving up.
Thank you. I know that wasn't easy. Thank you. It's hard to imagine that in today's world, these are things that we have to be talking about. When I was in high school, this isn't what I was talking about. I never dealt with things like this. So this is where we are in today's America. Another huge concern for moms. So thank you. Vanessa, we're going to head over to you. I know one story is harder to follow, and we're going to be on an emotional roller coaster, but literally these are the stories that are happening in every community. So Vanessa is from Florida. She's a mom of two, and she also has an incredible story to share.
Yep. Just wow, Taryn. Thank you for not giving up. God does answer prayers.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Fuara. When I was 9 years old, my family and I migrated legally from Peru to the United States. It took my parents 7 years and all of their savings to obtain legal residency in this great country. As a child, I dreamed of meeting Michael Jackson, Mickey Mouse, and even becoming neighbors with Punky Brewster. I'm aging myself here. But reality struck when we arrived at a graffiti-painted building in the Bronx. Life was difficult at first. I'd watched my parents juggle 2 jobs each, and I couldn't help but wonder about their why. Why they left everything behind. Our family, neighbors who were like family, our traditions, our culture, our way of life. But they protected us from their struggles and made sure we were safe and fed. As time went on, I realized my parents came seeking 3 things: freedom, opportunity, and prosperity. Freedom because back in our country, the government was growing more controlling, opportunities were scarce, and prosperity was out of reach. My parents wanted to work hard and thrive, something very unrealistic back home. Little by little, we realized our version of the American dream was actually achievable. It was also the story of this great nation. As you've heard, America is an idea that breaks barriers. Among them is the belief that all people are created equal and have God-given rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just FYI, that used to be the state's motto. We didn't know these American principles until at 18, I fulfilled one of my greatest aspirations. I became an American citizen. America became even better when we understood the principles it was founded upon. I explored political parties to register to vote. I had no idea which party to choose or why. The more I learned, the more I was touched by the incredible story of the United States. Guys, just wow. I realized we didn't know that we didn't know. I discovered our founding fathers their stories, and their love for what they couldn't yet see. They founded this nation on liberty, equality, and self-governance. I was fascinated, aiming for a society where everyone could pursue happiness. Unfortunately, today, I see challenges threatening these very ideals. Movements seem to undermine the freedoms we hold dear. Calls for increased government control, restrictions on free speech, policies that hinder economic opportunity, and even many are advocating to violate the very sanctity of life under the false pretense of women's rights. This isn't about one side versus another.
That's right.
It's about defending the ideals that keep us moving forward as intended. The principles and values that made this nation the greatest on earth are the very foundation keeping us standing and fighting for what is right. Fighting for the truth that made our country extraordinary. But uncertainty has settled into our households across the nation. We all know that. Across America, causing families to lose hope. How many kids missed out on summer camp because parents couldn't afford it? How many families are cutting back on the essentials, worrying about the future? How many dreams are being deferred because the path forward is unknown and unclear? Before, we were living and thriving. Now we're surviving. But we still have to turn it around. We have time to turn it around. I know you went out of your way to be here tonight, and from the bottom of my heart, we thank you. But attending events and voting isn't enough. Many of us are already involved and doing a lot, but we need you to do just a little bit more if we want to take back America. That America that you were born loving and that millions like me learned to love. Remember, it is our responsibility to preserve the promise of America for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. We have such great mamas here telling stories that just resonate with so many moms across the country, and this is why we picked these moms, because these are the stories that we're hearing. The border crisis has many tentacles that affect the lives of moms in many ways. Some of those ways are particularly tragic, and our next mom is Stephanie Turner. She is a mom of 4, and she is from the border state of Texas.
Thank you for inviting me. My story tonight is talking about my son, Tucker, and I have 4 kids. Tucker is my firstborn, my only son, and I have 3 daughters. And just like all moms, we're trying to figure out how to raise our kids, how to keep them safe and protect them and grow them into successful adults. In 2021, my son was exposed to a fentanyl-laced Xanax, and that was disguised as a pharmaceutical medication, and over the next 10 weeks, he was taking what he thought to be Xanax. At that point in 2021, I had never heard the word illicit fentanyl, and I did not understand, and the first time he was offered a pill, he came home and told me about it. Tucker was the definition of a mama's boy. He talked to me about a lot of things, and we had a very close relationship. He had a great circle of friends and family and support, and I'm here tonight to say that that is not enough, because taking those Xanax created an addiction, and that led to a very short time of recovery for Tucker, and unfortunately Tucker took another pill, and that took his life. That was September of 2021, and prior to that, I did not know that 80% of people who struggle with fentanyl dependency relapse within 1 year of treatment. Little did I know it would be the #1 cause of death, that it was sold and marketed by teenagers on social media. He could order a pill online easier than he could order a pizza. That 7 out of 10 pills have a lethal amount of fentanyl. This is a war. Absolutely a war, and my son was a casualty of this war. And it's from this and why I talk about Tucker's story, because it would be really easy to say one pill, one time, and that's what happened. But that's not what's happening. Kids are being exposed. It's creating a dependency, and our babies are dying. People know the effects of it, and they use it anyways because that's how strong it is. That's the impact that it has on the body. It is unlike anything else. You cannot see it. You can't taste it. You can't smell it. You don't know what it's in. So just to think that our kids could be consuming anything, our brains are not even fully developed until they're 25 years old. And my son made a decision as a 19-year-old boy that I know he would not make had he known. So as you can imagine, I started researching and learning more about it, and I learned that over 200 people a day die in America, that an entire classroom of adolescents ages 14 to 18 die every single week in America. These are our youngest, 14 to 18, most vulnerable population, and they're dying every single week. That really just bothers me. And if the statistic that I said of 80% of people relapse within 1 year of treatment, what is the trajectory of that? And then I learned that hospitals aren't testing for fentanyl, so the number that's being reported is it's just a drop in the bucket. So when I stand on the stage and represent hundreds of thousands of parents who are learning how to live without their children, we have lost more children. There's more parents without their children than ever before. It has killed more Americans than the Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam War combined. And so with that, I was just a mad mom who wanted to talk about it, and we went ahead and we pushed for a law in Texas requiring fentanyl education in grades 6 through 12. It's titled Tucker's Law, and we then created the Tucker Project, which is an interdisciplinary curriculum rolled out to the states, and we're working across the nation trying to get schools to teach this, to understand the impact that fentanyl has, and be better educated and educate our parents, because we don't know what we don't know. We can't teach our kids about something that we don't know, that is moving in a world faster than we have access. So that's my story.
That's another tough story. Thank you.
I love how mom gets stuff done. We see a problem and we come in with a solution. And I just thank you so much for turning your pain into power to help other parents.
Yes.
Thank you.
We can either get bitter or we can get
That's right.
better through something and help others and save others. And again, to Tucker, what an incredible young man he was. And thank you for sharing the story. This is, again, stories that moms that are watching. I think everyone knows someone that has had a loss because of fentanyl now. So I know my young cousin died too from fentanyl, just taking his Xanax like this. So it's touching everyone here. If we were to raise a hand, someone has heard of someone that died of fentanyl. So a huge problem that we have to address seriously, and we'll go ahead and talk with Senator about that when he gets here. Let's go ahead and talk to our next mom. This is kind of right on the heels of the border situation as well. This is a mom of Obama 4 from Pennsylvania. This is Caitlin Carr, and she's going to talk with us a little bit about her story and her experience.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Carr, born and raised here in Pennsylvania. I'm a wife, a mother to 4 children, and a registered nurse for the last 12 years, 9 of which are in labor and delivery. I'm one of 4 nurses in my family, including my mother, who's also here tonight. I became a nurse because I genuinely care about helping people. I work the 12-hour shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., so that I can be home with my kids and not have to pay for daycare. I just finished paying my last out-of-pocket medical bills for my 18-month-old daughter. I don't expect that my health care should be free. That's why I work. Over the last 3 years, I've observed a significant increase in the number of babies born to illegal mothers, whether they're uninsured or on Medicaid. Their health care is free. An interpreter over the phone is almost always needed to communicate the patient's history and the patient's reason for presenting to the hospital. Oftentimes, the patients are poor historians, or the interpreter poorly translates what the patient is saying. On occasion, I'm unable to connect to an interpreter for several minutes, not only delaying care for that patient, but for other patients waiting to be cared for. Because of the increasing volume of patients presenting to labor and delivery, patients often are held on the unit after they've delivered because there are no beds available on the mother-baby unit. This leads to unsafe situations where women are laboring in a small triage room, not equipped for an emergency situation. This includes fully insured American mothers who expect the highest quality of health care. The scary part of all of this is that I'm only speaking from a labor and delivery perspective, but I know the emergency departments are experiencing the same level of stress. On behalf of myself and others, and my many other friends in the healthcare field, we are burnt out. My concern is our healthcare system is overwhelmed and approaching a breaking point. Something needs to change. Thank you.
Another important story, clearly. Healthcare. For us as moms, how important is healthcare, right? This is our family. This is our children's lives. Labor and delivery. So obviously something needs to be addressed and needs to be corrected and needs to be changed.
And that's another thing we've heard a lot from moms across the country. So thank you for coming and sharing that with us. Our last mom is also from Pennsylvania. Angelina Banks is a mother to a blended family of 4. And we are excited to hear from this Mama Bear.
Yes, I am a mama bear. So yes, I am probably about 5 minutes from my home right now. But being a mother to a blended family is no easy task. It's a blessing, but it is not at all easy. Having a hand to help guide and shape the core traits, values, and defining characteristics of a child can seem daunting at times. But fostering a love of God, country, and family has always been at the forefront of my home. In 2017, when our oldest were in high school, we encountered something that we can all identify with. That typical teenage angst, hormonal moodiness, closed doors, and one-word answers. Typical, right? Not so much. Little did we know, we were experiencing cracks in our familial foundation due to the opposing ideologies and values introduced from a source that we could have never come to expect, our local public schools. Even then, CRT, DEI, and SEL policies were already being woven into the everyday educational experiences for our students. The demonization of the nuclear family, the mockery of faith, daily attacks on the red, white, and blue, and even a complete disregard for the brave men and women who keep us all safe. So I started chatting with other parents in the playgrounds, in Facebook groups, at civic meetings, and we started finding out really concerning things. We had discovered that students had been asked to participate in privilege walks. They were being instructed to fill out intrusive surveys about their home lives, and then the teachers were telling them not to tell the parents about the surveys that they were filling out. There were so-called activists from outside of our township that were given access to our students to brainwash them into creating victimhood profiles and oppression indexes. There was also an abrupt departure from reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that learning time was replaced by educators essentially acting as unlicensed behavioral modification therapists. And don't get me started on the books in the libraries, the books in the classrooms, the various bathroom policies, and all of the other things that we've actually heard a little bit about tonight. Then the pandemic hit, and we all know what happened. Students and parents saw the power-hungry teachers' unions doing everything they could to avoid going back to school. The teachers' unions told everyone that school wasn't important because of virtual learning, parents saw firsthand the departure from traditional schooling and the pivot and emphasis on woke ideals. And when parents began to speak up, what happened? They weaponized the DOJ against us. Right. They tried to scare us into keeping our voices silent. Our schools are failing our children. And we as parents have to wake up to the hard fact that we were failing them too. We blindly trusted a system that should have been building successful and educated youth. And instead, it was a system that was effectively undermining everything that we had hoped to instill in our children. Schools need to drop the twisted theology and the emphasis on woke issues. They need to refocus and return to the classics. The sky is the limit on what progress we could achieve in closing the education gaps. Dr. Sherry Few, I recently read this. If you put your kids in public school, they have only a 35% chance at attaining reading and math at level. A recent Johns Hopkins study noted that even though the number of students in U.S. classrooms is actually going down and the birth rate of students is going down, the number of students in school is also going down because they're being homeschooled. Because the pandemic wasn't the learning issue, it was the teachers. In public education, we reward mediocrity and we discourage excellence. We suffer at the hands of a weaponized DOJ that seeks to silence the parents and seeks to silence our voices. But for me, I refuse to accept that. Okay? And as long as I'm here, I will fight for my children. I will fight for yours. And so I thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to bring light today.
Yes. Love it, Angelina. I tell you, do not mess with Mama Bear, any of these Mama Bears, any of the Mama Bears that are watching, because boy, they will defend their children. That is what we are called to do. You do not mess with the Mama Bears. You do not call them domestic terrorists. And you don't cancel moms.
Okay, and I just have to say that if you think a Mama Bear roundup is a scary thing, you don't even want to mess with those Grammy Grizzlies.
So true. You know, my son too, he in high school, you know, they sent out a survey, 20-something questions, and they were asking children if they were questioning or confused about their gender. Why is the school doing this? Well, we know there's an agenda there. And I say this because when I went to my school board and I talked to the parents in my community, what really bothers me, just with you, Penny, too, is when you have an impressionable child and you ask them to check a box that they are confused or they never even thought about it, right? These were things you had never even heard about or addressed. And then you just all of a sudden bring this child on a journey of confusion. And then the school is feeding this indoctrination, this propaganda. And it's not going to happen on our watch anymore. No.
And I'll just reiterate what we said at the beginning of the show. Parents' rights are fundamental and supreme, protected in the Constitution. The government does not replace us. We are the ones. Every other entity, organization, government organization is there to support us, not restrict us, regulate us, and definitely not replace us. And that is what we moms are standing up and standing boldly on.
Let's talk about the Constitution. We have a couple of minutes yet. I think the senator is just in transit. He has landed, so just so everyone knows. So he is on his way. So a couple minutes on the Constitution, Kimberly. We teach it.
Yep.
We talk about it. We remind Americans, moms, to teach those principles of liberty in their home, because it is the Constitution that gives us freedom. And there is an attack, clearly, on the Constitution.
Absolutely. I had the opportunity to go to Europe this year, and I went to Hungary and Romania and spoke at different events. And when I was in Hungary, one of my friends called me and said, "You need to go to the House of Terror and Museum." And I was like, okay, I hadn't seen anything about that in any of the information we looked at. And we went to Hungary to see what we should see. Everybody needs to go there. It really was a house of terror. And it is where, when the communists came into Hungary, it is where they took the people to torture them until they admitted to something they didn't do. They went after the farms and took the food. They went after the children. They intimidated, they humiliated. And every single despot, the three most heinous despots of our time, Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, exactly the same thing. They went after the children,
right? Because
they knew if they could get the children, steal the hearts and minds of those children, that they could convince them to be whatever they wanted them to be in the future. They are going after our children. They have openly said it. But that's not all. They are trying to disrupt our whole entire system of rule of law, as you've heard.
Right.
They are trying to ignore the fact that fentanyl is coming into our country and targeting our children. Everything, if you just step back and you look at everything that's happening, all of these things, they're all connected. And the one goal is to tear down the freest, most prosperous nation on earth. And we are not going to let it happen.
Cultural Marxism is very deep in our country.
It is. It's infiltrating our schools, our classrooms, the media. It's everywhere. And we have to counter it. And one of the things that I frequently tell people to remind them is one of the reasons why we're losing battles is because we're fighting principle with policy. And we need to fight principle with principle, because when we do, freedom wins. I was going to give you a little example as a mom.
Okay.
My daughter, my youngest daughter, she came into the house one day to convince me that socialism was so awesome, and I was just not compassionate, not understanding. And
I can't believe she even took you on.
I know. It's like, whatever. So I said, okay, baby, you want to play a game? And she loves playing board games, so she's like a little interested, and she's like, what do you mean? I said, you want to play a game and prove to me that socialism is the best way to go? And she's like, okay. And I said, hand me your phone. And she's like, I'm like, you said you wanted to play. So she hands me her phone. And I said, okay, from now on, I'm going to tell you what kind of phone you can have, what color phone you can have, how many people you can have in your phone, what contacts, when you can contact them. I didn't even get through the whole list. And she said, give me back my phone. Socialism sucks. That took what, 30 seconds? So we need to teach these principles of freedom and help them understand that what they think they're fighting for when they think they're fighting for freedom is actually going to take it away.
Right.
So everything that's happening in our country right now, and the stories that these moms have shared, it is all attack on America and the ideals and principles and values that made this country what it is. That is what we are going to stand on and keep fighting for.
Absolutely. And you know, this is it. Moms, you are so important. Dads. By the way, we love the dads. We're the women's group, the moms group that loves the dads. Our focus is moms, obviously, but dads, we need you more than ever.
We are the National Organization of Women That Love Men.
That's right. We love our dads, we love our husbands, we love our sons. But I was just even thinking, you know, with Halloween coming on, you know, we would do this kind of thing. You've heard this before, where one sibling goes out and collects all the candy, then you bring it home and everybody gets to participate. And, you know, these kind of things that you show your kids, you're like, well, this is what it is. One person works hard, and then everybody else gets everything. And, you know, all these ways that we can teach our kids, because it is all about teaching the future generation about communism, right? If one person works hard and everyone else participates and takes it, they start getting it, just like you, or controlling what's in someone's phone. And these are things we have to teach them, because the world is teaching the kids that socialism is fair or communism is trendy, and it's not, clearly.
And that you're not who you are, and that the country you belong to is bad, and none of those things are true. So let's counter that.
Right. All right. Well, I think we can. Oh, okay. I got a little bit of a cue here. We have a couple minutes, and then we're going to do one thing. One other comment did you want to share? I know you wanted to share Gabby's story.
Yeah. So there was a mom who couldn't be here. She has a 3-month-old, and her husband is doing rounds in residency for being a doctor, so he couldn't come and bring the baby. But she came from Cuba, and she told me her story, and I was so powerful, the things that she dealt with in Cuba and that she escaped from. And then she said, I am terrified because I'm seeing all of these things happen in America, and I came here for American dream, for freedom, and now I'm terrified that we're going to lose it. And you also, when we had Xi Van Fleet.
Right, Xi Van Fleet was on our podcast, talks all about communist China, what she saw there, and how basically this is Mao's America now. Everything she saw happening in communist China is now happening here. And the Marxist playbook is being played out. The thing that, drives me just crazy too is just dividing the families and all of this control that they come in, and they do it so quickly. I think people just haven't, they're not paying attention until it's too late.
Right. So this is our time. This is our time to wake up, realize what's happening, tell everybody that you know, and just open with a question. You don't have to go in and say, oh my gosh, do you not realize what's happening? No, most of them don't. Most people are just deceived. Just ask them a question. Did you know? Are 3 very powerful words. Whatever it is that they care about, that they're thinking about, did you know that these books are in our schools? Did you know that there are Venezuelan gangs that just killed 2 of our neighbors? Did you know any of these things? It opens a conversation. Just be a sister, a brother, a neighbor, a friend, and listen. And they will start the conversation, and then they will realize that the principles and values that America was founded on are worth fighting for. Then you know what that is.
And again, these are all mom issues.
Yeah.
That's the great unifier, right?
Motherhood is the great unifier. That's right.
Alrighty, so I just want to give a round of applause for all of these moms here for their courage. And your stories are just amazing. They really are. Thank you so much, Mom. A round of applause. There we go. Standing ovation. Standing ovation. I really do appreciate everyone having their courage. So thank you, Mom. We're going to go ahead and let you take a seat again here. We have a couple announcements, just a little bit of business. Again, thank you to everybody that's watching on the live stream. We're so glad that you're joining us because we don't want to forget about you. You are so important. Again, please share this with everyone in your group there. And again, thank you for this live audience being so incredible. So, a couple things. When the senator comes out, at that point, we'll need everybody to make sure they stay in place. And then when the senator is released, we'll let everyone know. When he leaves, we'll let everyone know when they're released.
He has to leave.
We're not going to release him, but we will release you.
Just because he leaves the stage doesn't mean you can all get up and run out. You have to stay. And we'll close out the show after he leaves.
Right.
Everyone on the live stream will be able to see that too.
Yes. So we're just trying to make sure that everybody knows they have to stay here. And then when Senator leaves, we'll let you know so you can be released, not the senator. I'll get that all squared away. A couple other things and some little bit of business. I want to talk a little bit about Moms for America before the senator comes out.
Yep.
We did this vision video, and I just love it so much. Pam, our producer, worked so hard on this with Kimberly. Kimberly founded this organization 20 years ago. I've been with this organization for 8. It has been a sisterhood. It has been a family. Conservative women all across the country have been told that there are no other conservative women. There is no family of you. You do not have a voice. You are the outcast, but we're not. And there are so many conservative women across this country. So we are your family. We're your sisterhood. We are the ones that you can come to and we can help support you on your journey through motherhood. So I want to go ahead, play this video, let everybody watch this. He's saying not quite yet, but maybe I have to. All right. Well, Ben's telling me to wait a couple minutes. Ben, what do you want? What you want? I won't do it then. Ben's like, Deb, don't do that yet. All right. I won't get to that video, but you're gonna have to tell them a little bit more about Moms for America.
Okay. So this is when they give
We're
you
stalling.
Sorry.
Yeah,
this is when they give you the little thing in the ear that says stretch.
Yes, I just got stretched. I'm like, okay, all right, I won't throw it there.
So one of the things that Moms for America does that it's our core signature program, and it's something that you can do in your own home, invite your own friends and neighbors, and it's mom-to-mom messaging. It's called the Cottage Meeting Project. Yes. It's like Tupperware for Liberty. Everybody knows how to do that. And you just bring moms in, your friends, neighbors, the ladies in your group, and you just lead a discussion group talking about the principles of liberty and the Constitution in a way that resonates and is relatable. And if all you do is meet once a month by the end of a year, you'll have more knowledge of the principles of liberty and the Constitution than the majority of judges, attorneys, and elected representatives in the country. And we have mountains of anecdotal evidence to prove it. We have gone toe-to-toe with legislators, in sheriff's offices and school board meetings, helping them understand what the Constitution is, and it blows their minds. There's one of the moms reached out to us last year from Florida, and she said, I just love what I'm learning in the cottage meetings. It's life-changing, and that's what we hear most. And she said, I was having a conversation with my state representative the other day, and he asked if I could slow down so he could take notes. They were talking about a constitutional principle, and he was trying to keep up. So they don't teach Constitution law in law school anymore. They teach case law to get around the Constitution. So when a mom learns these simple principles of the Constitution and then presents them to someone in office who should have known them, they're kind of blown away. And they are simple principles. So we loved the cottage meeting. We promote it all the time. We also have an Empower Moms Resource Center, which is empowering moms to take back control of their children's education from the kitchen table to the school board. And then, of course, we have Mom Vote, because we want to empower moms to vote their values with confidence. And we do everything that we can to make that possible. And right now, we are in 7 states on the ground in our Moms Walkathon. We're also doing our Moms Callathon. And we are knocking on doors, meeting our neighbors, bringing our kids, our dogs, whatever. We have donuts and coffee in the morning. And we are reaching these moms and helping them realize that they need to go out and vote to preserve everything that they hold dear.
That's it. Again, you can check us out at momsforamerica.us and join the movement there. So we would love to have you moms here and moms there. All right. I did get the okay that I can play the video now. All right. So we're going to play this video. It's our vision video. Pam did a great interview with you. It's kind of like who we are and our mission. And then we'll be hearing from Senator J.D. Vance about his mission, his vision for the Vance-Trump administration. But first, let's take a look at the video, and then we'll be right back.
There was a class that did a study assignment that the teacher gave, making a list of what things, do you love about America? And after all the papers were turned in, not one student could think of anything that they could say that they loved about America. Nothing to love about America? I love everything about America, because in America you can innovate, you can have ideas, and you can follow your dreams. And the only person that can hold you back is you. I mean, there's no place like it on earth, and I just don't think children realize that today. And I 100% know that we can turn this around in one generation, because mothers are the last best hope of America. And that's what we do at Moms for America. We are providing that history, that heritage, that love of liberty. We're empowering moms to be able to teach and nurture a love of liberty in their homes, so that we'll have a generation of children who will rise up carrying the banner of liberty, so that we can not just restore the republic, but secure it for generations to come. If you have parental guidance to watch a movie and you can't show something on TV or air on the radio because you're trying to protect children, why would we not be doing the same thing in the classroom? From city halls to Supreme Court and school boards to Congress, we have had an enormous impact over the last several years. Launching the cottage meetings was huge. That has really sparked and ignited the patriotism and activism within moms. We've not only flipped 43 school boards in 27 states, we have moved school board members from one side to the other. In several states, we've been able to get city council members on the city council. We've been able to get county supervisors on. We've supported sheriff's elections. We've been very engaged in Congress level as well as the state level in pushing bills and supporting bills that will protect children from genital mutilation. We've been able to testify through various different legislative bodies and in Congress talking about the importance of protecting women's sports. We've had press conferences. We did a great event with Epic Times, a joint event with them, our gender confusion event, so that we could start to move the needle in the right direction. We have put together a series of booklets on gender confusion, parental rights guide, CRT, social emotional learning, comprehensive sex education, and they're not just available to moms in English, they're available in Spanish, and we're developing them in Asian languages as well. So this year, by the end of the year, I will have been gone at least 300 days. I have been in 37 states. I just met with moms in Sun Valley, Idaho, and so it's important that we're out there reaching them where they are and not expecting them to come to us. We are in a war. They are coming after our children. They're coming after families, our freedoms, everything that we hold dear. They're doing it in the schools. They're doing it in culture. They're doing it in video games. Every aspect of our society, everything that used to support us as parents is now going against us. And I am not going to allow any of my children or grandchildren to be a casualty in this war. And I want to reach as many mothers as possible so that they can make sure that their children and their grandchildren are not casualties of this war. God wins in the end, but I'm planning on winning a whole lot of battles in between now and then. Every mission has two parts, those who give and those who do. And when we come together, we are stronger together in fulfilling that mission. An investment in Moms for America is an investment in the future. And we literally hold the future of America in our hands. I pledge allegiance to the flag with liberty and justice for all. Good job.
Mom Vote Town Hall. Again, please share this with your friends. We're going to have an exciting talk now with Senator JD.
Yeah, JD Vance. So for those of you who are just joining us online, we were able to hear from these amazing moms and their stories in the first hour. And now they're going to have an opportunity to ask JD Vance questions.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so with that, please welcome to the stage Vice President nominee, JD Vance.
There's things to be done. Rebuild America first.
Welcome. We know you're a busy guy.
Pennsylvania is like a second home for me at this point, though. So
yeah.
I'm thrilled you guys are doing this, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. I know the moms all over the country who are watching tonight are very eager to hear what your positions are on a lot of issues.
Okay.
The first hour, we had all of these moms were sharing stories, personal experiences that they've dealt with in the last 4 years, and then they have some questions that they would like to ask you. But we have a couple that want to ask you first.
Right.
So you were announced as the vice president pick exactly 3 months ago today.
I didn't even realize that.
You're exactly today.
It felt like 3 years ago.
It does seem like that because we were there.
The political campaign, the days are short, but the weeks are really long. So it's like Marine Corps boot camp. You're going so fast, you don't realize that it's passing you by, and then you wake up and here we are.
So what are the major differences that have happened in the last 3 months since being announced as
Yeah, what has that been like, huh?
Well, there's so much I could talk about, but of course, first of all, we're proud of these guys and we're very grateful to them, but having a Secret Service detail is really weird. And, I haven't driven a car in 3 months, which my wife is probably happy about because I have a bit of a lead foot. And I think all the moms on the roads out there are probably happy that JD Vance has not been on the road the last few months. But, it's so unusual because if you think about it, you show up to the grocery store and there are like 15 guys surrounding you with the little things in their ear. So even if somebody has no idea who you are, they start to wonder, well, so somebody has to be here because all these Secret Service agents are bouncing around. So there's no anonymity anymore. And, it's one of the things that just comes along with the territory. But look, we're having a really good time. I mean, what's different about, running for the Senate than running for vice president. I ran for the Senate for the first time a couple of years ago, I joke that when I was running for the Senate, you ride around the back of a used Subaru that was owned by one of my staff members, and now I ride around a 737, right? So it's a little more comfortable than it was, but it's also what's really cool, and this is partially just because, life happens, and we had our third baby about 4 months before the Republican primary when I was running for Senate. This time the kids, they're 2, they're 4, they're 7, and they can kind of come with us, and they're part of the journey a little bit. And so that's just it's a really cool thing to see the country from the perspective of a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Yeah. And it's been a very, very nice thing. It's been a great family adventure for all of us.
So I really liked this story. We were together on the Tucker tour. That you were talking about how you may have had to cancel on Tucker because you got sick.
Yeah,
you didn't have any carnivals before you came here, right?
No, not today. No, that was a tough day. So that was in Hershey, PA, and we're not too far from Hershey, right?
No.
So yeah, I again, because you're surrounded by Secret Service and everybody knows who I am now, and so whenever I do something, there are like 10 separate iPhone cameras that are trained on me, right? And my kid, my 7-year-old, I'm like, all right, I really want you to go on a roller coaster with me at Hershey Park, and he goes, okay, but you have to go to one of these ridiculous spinny rides afterwards. And I do the roller coaster, it's great, and then we get on the spinny ride, and I just, about 2 seconds in, I think to myself, I'm going to throw up all over this. And it was like going so fast that, and I could see these iPhone cameras from people in the outside the ride. I'm thinking to myself, this is going to look, when I throw up, it's going to look like one of these old sprinklers, and it's going to be captured on camera for the entire internet to see. And luckily, I held together. I think the Secret Service may have actually stopped the ride a few seconds early because they could see that I was really not doing well. But, whatever revenge my son, if he ever wanted to get revenge on me, he got it, that 2-minute spinny ride. But look, but it goes to show me, that was a very miserable 2-minute spin ride. But my son, where else do you get to go to all these different theme parks and see all these different parts of the country? And it's just a very, very
great
cool
opportunity to have your children with you.
It really is. And again, you see it through their eyes, and they make little observations, right? Or like, we're in Traverse City, Michigan, and they're really into the cherries that we bring home from Traverse City, Michigan. Or we go to Hershey Park, and they're really into, like they have all these Reese-themed treats at Hershey. It's just kids notice stuff that I think you don't notice if you're just a 40-year-old guy.
Right.
And I think that noticing has been a really fun part of this.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Well, and your wife must be just, wow. I mean, she's super mama. How is she
really
handling it?
She really is. I mean, my wife is just this amazing person. And she quit her job when Trump asked me to become his running mate. But she's, a very brilliant and very accomplished corporate litigator. And she's like, look, if we're going to do this, then I'm going to make this as easy on the kids as possible. And I'm going to come around and travel with you as much as possible, right? Like, if we're going to do this, let's make it a family adventure. I will tell you a story. One of the first times that the president actually met my wife, the first times they had really talked in any great detail, we were actually throwing a fundraiser for him. And the president sort of greets Usha and gives her a big hug. Oh, you're so beautiful. I'm so glad to see you. And he's, those of us who know him know he's a very engaging guy, despite what the media tells you about him. He's actually just a very warm and normal person. And he asks her what she thinks about me being involved in politics. And she gives, if anybody knows my wife, it's like the perfect Usha answer. It's a very diplomatic answer. And she's like, well, sir, my husband really loves public service. We love the state of Ohio. And I'm just really thrilled to be able to help him out where I can. And Trump looks at her and goes, yeah, my wife hates it too.
I'm so glad you brought up
honesty.
That's what I love about Trump. Like, Trump finds the real truth in something, and whether you want him to say it or not, he just points his finger right at it.
So I'm glad you brought him up, because a lot of people have brought up the fact that you are not a big fan of President Trump.
Sure.
And
Trust
that you were
me.
very
He
vocal
remembers very well.
about it. So, the big thing I think that moms would like to know is, what changed?
Yeah, well, a lot changed. I mean, one, I become a father, right? So my first was born in 2017, and then our second a couple years later, and our third a couple years after that. And I think you think about the country a little bit differently. I think, at least I did, when I became a father. I took a slightly different perspective, maybe a little bit more protective, a little bit more worried about the future than I had been. Even though life was going very well for us, I just think that, becoming a dad changes your perspective like that. But I think really importantly is, there were a lot of predictions that were made about Donald Trump's 4 years in office. And I think for swing voters, people who are on the fence, there are a lot of predictions right now being made about Donald Trump. If he gets in office, all of these bad things will happen, right? That's what the media says. That's what the Democrats say. And a part of me, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but it's more important to be honest, I think, is I kind of bought into some of the lies in 2016. Well, and then he was president, and take-home pay was going up faster than it had in 40 years. Inflation was low. The border was secure. And remember, they all said Donald Trump was going to start World War III, and yet we had more peace around the globe than we had in a generation in this country. And you're sort of like, okay. And I really, politics is sort of, I think the incentives are all messed up in politics because, people don't want to admit that they changed their mind. They don't want to admit that they're wrong. And so there's this thing where you try to pretend, even though it's obvious that you screwed something up, you never want to admit it. I think it'd be much better if we had political leaders say, you know what? I thought this was going to happen. Something else actually happened. I was wrong. Like, it's okay to be humble and say I screwed something up. And I again, for a lot of voters who are still on the fence, I'd say the very same thing they're saying about Trump now, they said in 2015 and 2016. Right. And I actually think that we're going to have an even bigger and even better presidential term because we've got, frankly, so many more big problems to solve now than we did even in 2016. So, look, basically, he did a hell of a job, and it's important to say I was wrong.
Yeah, I think right. I want to be able to get to our moms. They have a lot of questions, and every one of their questions relates to this personal experience that they had. So, Debbie, if you want to get us started on that.
So, Senator, they all shared very moving stories that have personally affected them. And now they have a question for you regarding that.
And I wish I could have seen them. I'm sorry I'm a little late here.
It's okay.
But the nature of a presidential campaign, you don't always control your schedule perfectly, but thank you.
Yes. Okay. So the first one I have here is we have Donica Hudson. She's from North Carolina, so she has a question for you.
Okay, Senator Vance. My family and I were trapped for 5 days living the nightmare of Hurricane Helene.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate it. FEMA was nowhere to be found the first week and has done almost nothing. So my question is, what will the Trump-Vance administration do to restructure FEMA and to rebuild Western North Carolina?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I'm sorry that it happened, and I'm sorry, most importantly, that your government didn't do its job in response to it. Because what part of, I guess you're from the western part of North Carolina? So one of the things that if you grew up in the Appalachian part of our country, whether in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, anywhere else, is you often feel like your government doesn't care about you. And unfortunately, after the hurricane, I think that region of the world was really neglected and really left behind by the people who should have done the most to look out for these innocent victims. And I hate to say it, but I actually think that there would have been less loss of life if the government had responded more quickly. And what do we need to do to restructure FEMA? I actually think this one is pretty straightforward. You've just got to fire the present leadership and tell FEMA to focus on American citizens and not the illegal migrants. But I think there's a second part of this, and it goes to the rebuilding effort. And first of all, I promise, I look you in the eye and I promise you that if we win, and I think we're going to win, by the way, I think we're going to win Pennsylvania. But I promise you, I'll never forget where I came from, and I'll never forget that we have a responsibility to help you all rebuild. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about your story, though I understand I'm not going to get the full picture up here. But the other thing is, when you have a crisis like this, there are some things that FEMA is just not equipped for. And so I criticize FEMA for focusing too much on the illegal immigrant problem, not enough on American citizens. But let's be honest, this was really a Biden and Kamala Harris shortcoming when as soon as the rivers started to swell like they did, the 82nd Airborne should have been in Western North Carolina the next minute. That is what really screwed up. And if you think about all the bureaucracy of the federal government, right, you've got 8 different agencies that are supposed to do 8 different things. You need somebody who is in control, whose only job is to save as many lives as possible. And the fact that it took us 6-7 days before that was really possible, or that was happening in North Carolina, I hate to say it, I think that there was a lot of loss of life that wouldn't have otherwise happened, and just a lot of human suffering that we've got to do a better job of preventing next time. God bless you. Thank you.
Next, we have Madeline Brame. She is from New York, and she has a specific question for you regarding her son.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Vice President J.D. Vance.
She's claiming it.
You actually heard my story at the RNC. I spoke about my son.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What I want to know, what my question is what will a Trump-Vance administration do to strengthen and protect the rights for families of homicide victims legislatively?
Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, again, I'm sorry that your government failed you, and I promise you that when we're in office, we're going to try to make sure that your government doesn't fail the next person who's dealing with what you're dealing with. And here's the basic issue. The progressives, and I don't think this is true of most Democrats, by the way, but the leadership of the Democratic Party has gotten in their mind that law enforcement is inherently racist. And I think that's a real disgrace. It's led us to, frankly, dismiss a lot of good cops, and it's meant that we don't empower people to go after the truly bad guys. And what I find so crazy about all this is, if you look at the statistics, ma'am, it is a very, very small number of people who commit the gross majority of the violent crime in our communities, right? This is not the gross majority of our citizens, whether they're white, black, or whatever, are law-abiding people. There is a very narrow slice of our country that commits chronic violent crime, and the thing that we have to do is change the laws, but most importantly, empower law enforcement to go after the bad guys, lock them up, so they're not hurting more kids like yours. That is fundamentally what you have to do. And what I think is so, I just can't believe that one half of our political leadership has gotten in their head that if you lock up criminals, that's somehow a bad thing. Locking up violent criminals is one of the core functions of government, right? And you don't have to lock that many people up. Just lock up the violent criminals, and we could do so much better. And part of this is legislative too. And I've sponsored legislation to this effect. Is we're getting to a point where we've got a major law enforcement crisis in our country. We've got a lot of great police officers that aren't re-upping. You've got a lot of great young men and women who don't want to become police officers because they think it's too hard of a job. We are going to have to really fix the pay and benefits for our local law enforcement so that they get the pay they deserve, but most importantly, so that we get the right people serving as police officers. Because if you think it's bad now, and unfortunately the crime rates are not in a good place right now, it's going to be a lot worse in 5 years if we don't get better people coming into law enforcement, because you've got a lot of very good people who are getting out of law enforcement right now.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we have an online question. This one is from Gabriela Mason from California. Families are struggling to pay their bills, afford groceries, let alone save for their future. In the last 4 years, food prices have risen nearly 26%. When is my dollar going to be $1 again, and how fast can we get back to a 2019 normalcy?
There you go. You got to help us out here.
Well, the best thing we can do to lower prices is to elect Donald J. Trump president of the United States. That is the first and most important thing we got to do. And then I'll talk a little bit about what comes after. But I got to tell you this story. So we were actually in Reading, Pennsylvania for this. We were at a small Latino grocery store. The owners had just bought that grocery store a couple years prior, and my boys were with me. My 7-year-old boy and my 4-year-old boy, and they just wanted to come with Daddy on the campaign trail. And we were having a good time out there. And I'm standing. It illustrates how different kids are, because I tell the two of them, you can get anything you want. And the 4-year-old is trying to get like a gallon of ice cream, right? He's like me. And the 7-year-old, who's like his mama, is trying to get me to buy like a dozen or 2 dozen eggs. And I'm like, son, I meant like a candy. Like, go buy some chocolate. And he's like, no, Dad, you made the last 3 eggs this morning. If you don't get more eggs, Mommy's going to be really mad. It's like, okay, buddy, thanks for looking out. Very practical. But there were, of course, cameras following around, because there always are. And so I grabbed some eggs. And I pointed out that eggs have gotten way more expensive under Kamala Harris's leadership. And in fact, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, eggs are about $3.20 a dozen from $1.50 a dozen. That's a huge price increase in just 3.5 years. And I unfortunately fear it's going to get worse if we promote her to president. But I was kind of joking with my kids. I said, yeah, this is really important to my family because my kids, these guys eat about 14 eggs a day. Obviously exaggerating, right? Making a joke about my kids who do eat who do eat a lot. So I had some journalists fact check me and say there's no way that a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old could eat 14 eggs a day. And I'm like, it would be like me saying, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. And then the journalist being like, JD, in fact, ate a normal man-sized meal, not a horse, right? And you realize, the media sometimes in this country is so obsessed with misleading us that they don't actually report, some of these real stories of people who are suffering. But I think the most important thing, to answer the questioner's question, is a lot of us don't fully appreciate how energy prices go into everything else. And so think about it. If you're, a construction worker and you're building a house, but the truck driver who's delivering the lumber to the job site is paying 50% more for diesel, then that house is getting more expensive, right? Yeah. And if you're a grocery store and the truck driver who delivers the groceries or the farmers who are producing the food are paying 50% more for energy, then that's going to make all our groceries go up. So the most important thing that we can do, Donald Trump always says this, drill, baby, drill. Lower the cost of energy, and that's the most important thing that we can do to lower the cost of food. And then the second thing to make life more affordable is, look, the government has got to stop spending trillions upon trillions of dollars that it doesn't have. When you do that, you increase the price of everything. Because think about it, when you're printing all this money to cover the government's debts, then all the dollars that are in our pockets become more and more worthless over time. And so, I hate to say it, Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote in trillions of dollars in new spending. We got to get her out of there and put somebody with common economic sense back in the White House.
And you see this all the time when you're in the grocery store. Everyone is commenting how expensive everything, isn't it? Yeah. Are you over there by the eggs, by the cheese, by the milk, and everybody's like, I can't believe this has gotten so expensive.
Nobody knows like a mama.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
For us to balance our checkbooks and just afford it.
Yeah. And I actually, in our family, probably unlike most families, I tend to do more of the grocery shopping, at least until 3 months ago. Something changed 3 months ago. And I was just, it's shocking how much more expensive these things are. To get a steak at a grocery store compared to 3.5 years ago, it is just so much more money. I don't know how any middle-class person can afford, in Kamala Harris's economy, to live a good life. We've got to get back to basic common sense here.
Yeah,
100%.
We have another question.
Yes, we have Taryn and her daughter Penny. Taryn's going to share a question for you, Senator.
I'm going to follow suit and Vice President J.D. Vance.
I'm superstitious. You guys are making me nervous here, right?
My story here today, the public school in our district socially transitioned my daughter. And so my question for you is, there is actually currently a lawsuit against the Conejo Valley Unified School District in Ventura County, California, where 3 of my other minor children still attend. The district is being sued for providing minors with inappropriate gender-affirming surveys and curriculum without the necessary parental notification. With President Trump recently mentioning abolishing the Department of Education, what specific actions will your administration take to uphold my 14th Amendment right to direct the upbringing, care, and education of my children?
Wow. I'm so sorry this has happened to both of you. I can't believe that your own leadership has failed in this way. And I promise that when Donald Trump and I are back in office, you're going to have somebody who fights for you and fights for your right as parents. We want parents making these decisions, not anybody else.
Yes.
And I find with each of you, I want to know so much more about your stories than I know, and so much more than we have time for, of course. But I just think to take something that is so profound away from our moms and dads is such a violation of every right that exists. The reason why we establish government is to protect our rights, not to destroy our rights. And it's such a big difference between the Democrats and the Republicans in this race. And man, you mentioned education policy. I want to get into that. But let's be honest about something. One of the reasons why we have this incredible pressure. I mean, look, being a 14-year-old kid, being a 12-year-old kid, we know it's hard, right? Kids have all kinds of tough things going on when they're teenagers, when they're pre-teenagers. And I think, unfortunately, in the era of social media, sometimes we take normal adolescent insecurities and we tell, especially our young girls, well, that's not an insecurity, that's because something's wrong with you. And remember, we used to live in a country that recognized, no, there's nothing wrong with you. We just have to teach people how to be comfortable with themselves and to be comfortable with who they are. And the fact that we've gotten away from that, I think, is really profound, and it's very damaging. But we ask ourselves, why have we gotten away from it? And I think we have to ask ourselves, who's getting rich from what we're pushing down the throats of parents and children? And the answer is, there is a $1 billion industry in cross-sex hormones, in gender transition, and I think that we have to go the heart of the money and stop telling these pharmaceutical companies that they can make money by experimenting off of our children. It has to stop, and it will stop when Donald Trump is president.
We actually answered the next question online, so we won't do that online question.
Sure.
We're going to jump to.
But just on education policy, ma'am, I want to say that we don't even realize how much of our tax dollars, how much money of the people in this room goes into funding very radical curriculum. We ask, how have the schools gotten away from teaching reading, writing, arithmetic and towards the more crazy stuff that we're seeing the schools teach? And the answer is, often we're paying for it. And what President Trump and I are going to do is make sure our tax dollars go to educating our children and not to indoctrinating them. Stop the flow of money, and that's how you stop this person. Thank you.
Thank you. Over here to Vanessa. Vanessa is from Florida.
Senator, my family and I migrated to the U.S. legally.
God bless you.
Thank you. From Peru. It was a very daunting, complex process. It took us 7 years to make it into the country. How can we make the process easier for those who want to follow the law and come into the country legally?
Yes, ma'am. And one of the things I hear from, actually, I was in Tucson, Arizona a couple days ago, and I was talking about how part of the problem with our illegal immigration system, and there are a lot of problems, but one of them is that it's so profoundly unfair to people who have done the right way, who have waited in line, who have paid the fees. And this is one of the reasons why we have to get our hands wrapped around this illegal immigration problem. It's unfair because there are great people who want to come to our country. And I think, to me, the question that we have to ask is, what is it that we want out of welcoming newcomers into our country? We want people with great values. We want people who are willing to work hard, who are willing to play by the rules, who are going to contribute to their communities. And obviously you can't let everybody in that wants to come, but you've got to have an orderly process. And I think that part of what we've seen is we've redirected so many resources away from processing legal immigrants who are doing it the right way to focus on illegal immigration that's been facilitated by Kamala Harris, that it's probably harder to come in legally now than it was even 15 or 20 years ago. So we ought to devote the resources that are for processing legal immigrants to legal immigrants and not to this completely broken system that we have under Kamala Harris. So it's border security first, make sure we secure that southern border, and then I think we actually free up a lot of resources to focus on the legal immigration issue in our country. Thank you.
Stephanie Turner has a question for you, too. Stephanie's from Texas.
Hello.
Hi, Senator Vance. As a mother who has lost a son to fentanyl poisoning, I deeply understand the border crisis and the human impact that it is having. My question to you is, how do we cut through the red tape and move faster to reach every child across the U.S. with education-based prevention programs? We can't afford to sit idle while more lives are lost to innocent children who have no knowledge of this.
Yes, ma'am. And how old was your son?
He was 19 in 2021.
2021. I'm very sorry to hear it. What was his name?
Tucker.
Okay. I'll say a prayer for him tonight.
Thank you.
And not nearly in the way that you do, but we've of course experienced the problems of addiction in my own family. And one of the ways that I think about this is we want people to have second chances, because when you're caught in the throes of addiction, it's so hard to get out of it. But a lot of people do get out of it. But if they get out of it and then they relapse, and they relapse into fentanyl, sometimes there's not another second chance. And that's really what we have to change. That's why this poison is so dangerous and so deadly, is it takes away those second chances from our families, from our moms, from our dads, from our kids. It's got to stop. And it's disgraceful that we frankly have a government right now that's facilitating it instead of stopping it. And you talked about cutting through the red tape and you know what we can do on prevention and education. I think one of these things is, you know, you can only do so much with so many dollars. And so let's say you have curriculum money that's going into radical gender ideas instead of teaching kids how to say no to drugs, how to resist peer pressure, the warning signs for addiction. Because look, I mean, you probably appreciate this, ma'am, having seen it, but you know, some people get addicted the minute they take an opioid. And some people could take Percocet for 3 years and never get addicted. I mean, I've seen this even with my own friends who had a minor surgery, who take one Percocet and like, I'm never taking it again because I liked it way too much. It did something to me. We got to teach kids to recognize, right, when they're going down that very dark pathway. You know, the second thing is, and I know friends from back home, family from back home, who were involved in detox. And if you think about recovery as being a very long road, the very first step is very often detox. And there are not enough detox facilities in the United States of America right now. We should empower our churches and our local community organizations to provide those detoxes, because you can't get into recovery if you don't do the detox first, and it's very, very hard to take that first step. So why don't we make it easier to take that first step in the first place, shut down the poison coming into our country in the first place, and teach our children the red flags and the warning signs about addiction. I think if we do that, we'll start getting down the road of solving this. I mean, look, it is an unspeakable human tragedy what's going on in this country. 100,000 people, many of them in the prime of their lives. I mean, I've known so many people who have lost their lives to this, and I'm sure, ma'am, you're asking yourself the same questions, like, you know, who would you have fallen in love with, right? What do the kids have looked like? The human tragedy that we're allowing to happen in this country, it has got to stop. President Trump and I will fight to stop it, I promise you.
Senator, we have two moms from Pennsylvania. Those are our last
Hello.
two questions on the stage here. If we have time, we'll go to the online questions with Kimberly. But we have Stephanie Carr from Pennsylvania.
Caitlin Carr.
Caitlin Carr, not Stephanie. Sorry, Caitlin.
There's a lot of people. First of all, Senator, I just want to say thank you for you and your family for the sacrifice you're making to make America great again. I appreciate what you did for your family. As an OBGYN nurse, my coworkers and I are experiencing an overwhelming number of illegal immigrant pregnant mothers seeking and receiving free care. Between the volume of patients and the language barrier, insured Americans are not getting the quality care they pay for and deserve. How would a Trump-Vance presidency address this escalating problem?
Wow. Well, first of all, not that this is necessarily the most important issue today, but I think it was a very important issue a few years ago, is maybe our nurses would be less overwhelmed if we didn't have a federal government that was firing people for not taking the COVID shot a few years ago. And whatever your views, I think it was smart to let individual nurses and moms and dads make these decisions, not try to force a one-size-fits-all approach from the federal government. And ma'am, unfortunately, the answer to your question is, if you've got 25 million, 20 million, whatever the number is of illegal aliens in your country, we're compassionate people. We're not going to let people just expire on the streets, nor should we. So the compassionate thing for our own citizens, but I also believe for illegal aliens too, is to stop the open border and stop people coming into this country in the first place. There's no way to solve the problem without re-implementing some strong border policies. And, you know, if you look at the state of Pennsylvania, I believe the last time that I checked, but, you know, I'm sure the media fact checkers will double check my information here, but the average hospital emergency room wait time in the state of Pennsylvania is around 3 hours, right? So you go to the emergency room and you're not getting the care that you need because we diverted so many resources from caring for people who ought to be here to focus on people who have no right to be here. we have to recognize that there are sometimes trade-offs. And the compassionate thing is not to open your border and allow Mexican drug cartels to sex traffic little kids into our communities. The compassionate thing for our own citizens, and I think for everybody else, is to secure the border and focus on some basic common sense law enforcement. That's what we have to do. Thank you.
We have another question.
Angelina?
I'm superstitious too, so Senator Vance.
Call me JD, please.
Right. Our children's schools are teaching them that they are victims based on race.
Sure.
Family values are being mocked, and our country is being constantly disrespected. How will a Trump-Vance administration address CRT, DEI, and SEL in the public schools and support parent advocates without fear of government reprisals?
Yes, ma'am. Another big and important question, and I obviously don't know the backgrounds of all of you entirely, at least. And I don't know the backgrounds of a lot of folks in the room, but I'm 40 years old, and so I'm very much a child of the 90s. And my wife is 38, though she's probably going to get pissed off for saying that publicly. Can't take it back now. But, so her parents are legal immigrants from South India, okay? And she was born and raised in San Diego, but I think because we grew up in the 90s, and I'm not saying things were perfect, don't mistake me, but we grew up in a country where we were taught to think about people as people and not as whatever artificial, superficial skin color they had. And I think because both of us grew up with that attitude, we met, we fell in love, we started a family, and we never thought anything of it, right? I mean, there was never, the only funny and slightly awkward comment that anybody ever made is when my mom asked, what ethnicity Usha was, and I said she was Indian. She said, which tribe? I said, well, slightly off, Mom, slightly off. But she actually, my mom made this point to me, and I think it's, Mom is so smart. She's just one of the smartest people I've ever met. And she said, I get really mad at all these people talking about your biracial children and whether they're white or whether they're Indian or what their background is. She's like, they're just our babies, right? And I want us to think about all of our kids, whatever the color of their skin, they're just our babies. They're American babies. That is what matters. And so I think one thing that we have to do is do better as leaders. Talking about, yes, of course, we've got differences, and yes, of course, there are things that happen in America's history that aren't perfect. I'm not saying we ignore that, but we talk about it as a way to getting to a point where we see each other as Americans first and foremost. That's the most important thing. That's what we have to get back to. And then we also have to be honest, and this goes back to one of the earlier questions, that a lot of this crap is not something that anybody, black, white, Latino, anything, would teach their kids. They're learning it from very radical curriculums that are being planted in our schools by money coming from American taxpayers. And so I think the first thing that we have to do is defund CRT and all of the radical curricula that's going into our schools. That's really important. But man, I think the leadership part of this is really important too. For some reason, we got it into our heads that in a country as big and diverse and different as ours is, we needed to emphasize our differences. I actually think that what real leadership requires now is emphasizing our commonality as Americans. I think that we have a common destiny in this country, and if we forget that and we ignore it, it's going to rip our country apart. Let's not do that. Let's be Americans first. Thank you.
I think we can ask you for a final comment.
Yeah. So we have, you have had a very busy day. You need to get
I've had a fun day.
It's
been a good day.
Well, so we have thousands and thousands of moms watching this, and so we'd just like to know, what would be your final comments to the moms who are watching?
So I guess a couple of things. First, I'd ask you to get out there and get involved, because we've got 20 days to go. And, we're not going to win this election unless everybody gets out there and votes and makes their voice heard. The media is never going to be honest. The Democrats are never going to be honest. But if you want to take your country back, if you want to teach your kids your own values, if you want to save your children from unsafe neighborhoods, if you don't want your kids taught racial hatred disguised as diversity, then we have to get out there and we have to elect Donald Trump. And there's a lot that we can do to make that happen just in 20 days. Do you have friends or family that you think would probably vote the right way, but they haven't gone to the polls yet? Maybe they have an absentee ballot they haven't mailed in yet. Maybe you just want to post on social media like, hey, I saw J.D. Vance and he's not nearly as bad as the media says that he is, right? There are all of these ways where you can get involved, and think about the small number of ballots in 2020 that, if changed, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And a lot of the problems we've seen in the last 3.5 years simply are not happening in this country. So ask yourself, wake up on November the 6th. You want to be able to say, I did everything. And I think that the question over the next 20 days is, what does that everything mean? I think it's talking to your friends, talking to your family. If you've got spare time, donate and donate your time with the local party. Call people, right? Knock on doors. There's so much that we can do to get involved to make sure that our people get out there and vote. I think the second thing is, moms are in a very unique situation, okay? And what I mean is, look, I see the polls. The polls tell you, and I don't necessarily believe the polls, but let's say they're right. If the polls are right now, frankly, Donald Trump will win this election. And that's a good thing. It's a thing to be happy about. But the polls also tell you that we're doing better. President Trump and I are doing better with male voters. And the Democrats are doing a little bit better with female voters. Well, I think moms are the best ambassadors to say, look, don't believe the lies that you've heard about these guys. Vote for what's in your best interest. Vote for public safety. Vote for lower grocery prices for your family. Vote for, housing prices that are affordable for normal people to live in American homes. We have got to get back to common sense. And I think the best way to put common sense out there is person to person, the conversations you have at church, at the grocery store, with your friends, because you guys all have, I guarantee every single person in this room has somebody in their friendship circle who's maybe a little skeptical of me or maybe a little skeptical of the president. Just talk to them and say, I think these guys, I've got good heads on their shoulders, they care about the country, and most importantly, they're going to make our lives better. And I think if we do that, if we get out there and use that person-to-person power that we have just to communicate and persuade our friends and family, we're going to win. We got 20 days. Let's go and do it. God bless you.
There you go. Thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking time out tonight.
These United States were the ones who needed it worst. Let the rest of the world help us for change, and let's rebuild the very first. Our highways and bridges are falling apart. Who's blessed? Who has been cursed? There's things to be done all over the world.
Everyone has to stay in the room.
For those of you online, we want to thank you for being with us tonight. This has been an incredible opportunity to be able to hear what a Trump-Vance ticket would mean and what the changes would be in the White House. So we appreciate the time that he has taken to come and be here with us, and we hope that you will continue to follow what we're doing, because we want to make it possible for you to be able to vote your values with confidence and to get out there and vote. So visit us on our website at momsforamerica.us. You will find us on all of the social media platforms. We are now back on Twitter, that is now X. We were completely suspended from Twitter until it became X, so thank you, Elon Musk.
Yes.
And also make sure and visit momvote.us and sign up and share it with all of your friends, especially your moms. You all have moms in your circle. Reach out to them. You heard what JD said. If you want to win this, I'll just make it a little bit more bold. It's the moms that are going to do it.
Right.
So get out there and get those moms out there voting, sharing, and helping them understand what is actually at stake, and that their voice is their vote. Their vote is their voice for their values, and we have the ability to put a stop to everything right now so that we can start moving things in a better direction.
All right, let's give a round of applause to all of our moms again. Thank you, moms. Thank you, moms. Thank you to this incredible audience here in Philadelphia. You are amazing. We have just a couple of closing comments, too, so please join Moms for America. Please be a part of the answer. There is hope in each of us. We just need to speak it out, we need to share it, and we need to shine brightly. There's nothing more powerful. How many moms are in this audience? I mean,
All right.
How many people in here have a mom? I mean, this is it. This is America, right? This is America, and it's powerful. And we are the change. We are the ones that are going to fight for our children. We're going to defend our country, and we're going to save America.
And we'll keep bringing you opportunities like this because we want you to be able to experience what's actually happening in the country and hear from those who are making those changes. We'd like to see the Mom Vote Town Hall go to all the states for state legislative races, for congressional races. So if you guys are interested in doing that, give us a ring. We have a very unique feature at Moms for America. If you email us or call us, we actually respond. So thank you for being with us tonight, and all those of you online, keep fighting the good fight.
Yes.
Get out and vote.
And make sure you join Moms for America. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.